Hello, everybody, and welcome into Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please settle in and settle down here. We have another episode of Texas Tuesdays here, right here on the Big 12 or on Mark Rogers TV. Can you please go over, hit that like button, subscribe down below? It really helps out. Then can you also go over to the Texas channel? We're trying to grow that brand, so please go over there, hit that like button, subscribe over there as well. Really helps out. If you're a fan of any of the other college football teams we have on the channel, Iowa, Michigan, Nebraska, there was a live stream going on just a couple minutes ago. It still may be going on. Florida State, so on and so forth. Please go on and subscribe to those channels as well. Like their content. It helps out Mark tremendously, and that's at the end of the day, you guys are here for him. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below if you want to help out Mark in this channel we're trying to create here. Thank you guys very much. So we usually talk recruiting. Not much to talk about this week on the Texas side. The hot streak is kind of ended. You saw a bunch of guys come in the last couple weeks on the recruiting side of things, and we usually talk a couple games a week. So we usually talk 2 games a week. This week, though, you guys wanted me to talk about Big 12 coaches, so I went very in-depth to that, ranked all 14, because, yes, there are 14 head coaches in the Big 12 now, and we're going to do that, and we're going to hopefully generate some discussion. I think this is going to be very interesting. I think there's a chance that you guys will disagree with me. I'm pretty sure everyone will agree with 1. I'm pretty sure everyone will agree with 14. After that, I don't know. We'll have to see. I think I did a pretty good job. There's definitely room for debate here, though, guys. I think there's 3 or 4 spots here where you can move someone up or down. So if you guys want to debate that in the comments, go ahead and do that. Bring him on. Let's see if I got him wrong, if I got him right. Again, I am Matthew Miller, your host. Again, I'm just going to say it one more time before we begin. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel. Thank you guys very much. I will be here every Tuesday until the season comes up, and then I'll break down games in season on Tuesday. And Saturday or Friday, depending on game, I will be here right after, win or loss. Unfortunately, there's been more losses the last 10 years as a Texas fan. This will be my, I believe, 4th year doing the post-game show. So please subscribe. Please like. It really helps out. We're trying to get this content out there, and we're going to jump into this one, guys. Like I said, Big 12 coaches ranked, and here we go. Big 12 coaches ranked. Does anyone have a guess out there of who number 1 is? I think it's pretty obvious. The color schemes are silver, white, and purple. Anyone got a guess? Anyone got a guess in the comments? I'm sure you guys know it's going to be Will. We're going to jump to this real quick. 14 is Neil Brown for sure. You would be correct on that. I'll give you that hint. And number 1 is Chris Klieman. 9 years as a head coach. The last 4 or 5 have been spent at Kansas State. His record, guys, speaks for itself. 102-33 total record. He's 1-2 in bowl games. Last year, obviously lost to Bama in the Sugar Bowl. They have a Big 12 title last year, obviously beating TCU. And this is just crazy, he has 4 FCS championships. He is 18-1 in the FCS tournament. 18-1. That's an insane record. He's number 1. I don't care who you talk to. I think if you could talk to every fan base in the Big 12, especially the ones that have been here prior, they would put him at number 1. The guys coming in will soon realize that he does a lot with not very much, honestly. The talent there at Kansas State isn't great, and he does a fantastic job. Now, that's number 1. Number 2, this is where it's going to start, guys. Anyone want to have – I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds to type in the comments. If you're out there watching, please do this. Who is number 2 in the Big 12 coaches ranking? Who is number 2 on my list? Or your list if you just want to put yours out there as well. But number 2 is going to shock some people, I think. I think everyone has this in their mind of who it's going to be. And we'll see. Maybe it won't. I think JMU's only FCS playoff loss. It might be playoff suck. Christopher Foote. Okay, here we go. Number 2 is Mike Gundy. He has been doing this for 18 years, guys. He has a 156-75 total record. They've won 1 Big 12 championship under him in 2011. They've had 9+ win seasons. So 50% of the time he's winning 9 or more games. That's pretty good at Oklahoma State. They lost last year to Wisconsin in the bowl game that they had. This may be shocking to some people, but I have to put him here. He's been here for a very long time in the Big 12. He knows what it takes to win the conference. He's done it one time, and he's good in bowl games. I mean, he's 11-6. That matters to me. He's and 156-75 overall at Oklahoma State is a good record. Can you debate? I think you can. There's only a couple guys, in my opinion, in the running for the spot. I think it came down to 3 guys, in my opinion. It's Gundy, it's Leipold and it's Sonny Dykes. I think Gus Malzahn maybe, but he hasn't been in the Big 12. That's why I didn't have him in consideration for this spot. But those are the three. If you guys want to disagree, let's check out those comments real quick. Sonny Dykes, not sure. Ooh, okay. I think Mike Gundy. Well, Christopher Foote, you were correct. Mike Gundy is number 2. Number 3, Lance Leipold. This guy just wins no matter where he goes. 154 and 56 record overall. This is even more impressive, I think. Maybe not, but 6 NCAA Division III national championships at Wisconsin Whitewater. Then he went on to Buffalo, did pretty well there. He's been coaching for 16 years. He's gone 2-10, which isn't great, obviously, at Kansas. But if you go look at the roster before he inherited it, it wasn't in a good place, guys. I thought he did 2 wins, honestly. One of them versus my Longhorns. I thought that was a decent job. And then 6-7. And I think they're going to win probably 7 or 8 games this year. I really do. I think they'll win 7 games this year in the Big 12. Last year, they lost to Arkansas 55-53 in their bowl game. He's 0-1 or 0-1 at Kansas in bowls. He's 2-1 over or 2-2 overall, 2-1 when he was at Buffalo. This guy is a very good coach. You can't really dispute that. I know it's at a lower levels where he's done most of his winning, but that still counts. And he's done pretty good so far in the Big 12 of where he's at. That's why I have him at number 3. The next guy, he did very well at TCU, but he struggled everywhere else. And that's why I had him lower than most people probably did, which is either 2 or 3, and that's Sonny Dykes. Overall, he's 84 and 65, so not great, guys. He has 2 10-plus win seasons. That is pretty good. In his 13 years overall as a head coach, he was at Louisiana Tech, Cal, SMU, and TCU. He's 1-1 in the college football playoff. Obviously, he's the only coach, I believe, in the Big 12. He is the only coach to make the college football playoff, so that's a big thing in his corner, backing him up in this spot. He's 2-4 overall in bowl games. Overall, I like Sonny Dykes, but he has to prove it to me more because before this, he was kind of an okay head coach. I mean, if you get rid of last season, he has 1 10-win season in 11 years, basically. I don't trust that, so we'll have to see. That's why I have him at 4. Now, can you debate 2 with me for him? Of course you can, but I don't have him there. I just don't. I need to see more from Sonny Dykes. Number 5 overall, and if Gus Malzahn actually had I'll put Sonny Dykes up there and then Gus Malzahn. But if Gus Malzahn had the resume that he does out of the Big 12, in the Big 12, I put him a little bit higher. Obviously, 1 national championship appearance. The problem I have with that, a lot of those players were inherited. That's not really his team, his roster. He coached them. He did a good job. I'm not saying that. But after that, he kind of went downhill. He has a 94 and 47 record overall, 3-6 in bowl games. Lost versus Duke last year, and he has 6 9+ win seasons. So definitely a good coach. He's only been coaching for 11 years, so he's winning 9 games most of the time. He's doing a good job. But right now I have him at 5 because he's at UCF, and it's new to the conference, and he's only been there for 2 years. This will be his 3rd year coming into the Big 12, so it will be interesting. Next up, this will probably get a little bit of a debate here as well at the 6th position, but I have this guy. He was probably overrated and now underrated now at Iowa State, and that's Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell, it has 4 9+ win seasons, which is very good between Toledo and Iowa State. Those are not really teams that you hear about on the national stage very often, and he's brought Iowa State national relevance in the past couple seasons. 81 and 57 overall, 4-4 in bowl games. His last bowl game was in 2021. They lost to Clemson, and he's been the Big 12 Coach of the Year 3 times. 3 times. So I have him at 6, guys. And next up, another newcomer, Kalani Sitake. 3 9+ win seasons in his 7 years as a head coach at BYU. His only time coaching is at BYU. He's 56 and 34 overall, 4-2 in bowls. They won this year versus SMU in their bowl game. So I have him at the 7th position. Now we are halfway through. I will jump back into these comments real quick. Dennis Lang, please, yes, thumbs up, everyone. Hit that like button. Thank you. Hail to Pitt. Peninsula P, I have not seen you in here, so thank you for joining us. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Okay, so now, resuming with this Big 12 coaches talk. Number 8, I have Dave Aranda. A guy, in my opinion, that's on the hot seat if he does not perform well this year, but he's only been coaching for 3 years, guys, and he's been inconsistent, and that's why I said I think this is a make or break year, even though I don't think Baylor's going to be very good, because it either sends you down the road of what he was last year, or if you get back on track, you go back 2 years, and maybe that's what he really is as a head coach when they won the Big 12. He has 3 9+ win seasons. They obviously won the Big 12 a couple years ago. They're 1-1 in bowl games. He has a 20-16 record overall, and they lost versus Air Force last year in the Big 12 championship game. So I think he's a good, solid coach. Again, there's going to be another guy on this list a little bit down. Very good defensive coordinator. If he lost his job, he would get a defensive coordinator job if he wanted it right away. The issue is he a good head coach? I think the next 2 years are very important to David Aranda. Otherwise, I think he will be looking for a defensive coordinator job. Next up, my guy, Steve Sarkisian. I have him at 9. Maybe a little bit high. Maybe. I think there's a debate in here for the next 3 guys. After that, I don't think there's really debate. I think the lowest you can put Steve Sarkisian realistically is 11. He has one 9+ win season, and that is his big bugaboo, guys. When people talk about him, they talk about how he can't win 10 games, how he can't win 9 games consistently, and that's kind of true if you're looking at the record that he has. Now, I will say, when he inherited Washington, it was not a good team. He took him to be a average team, and then Chris Peterson took him over the top. When he took over at USC, they were facing a bunch of sanctions, and I thought he did a pretty good job there for the most part. That's his 1-9-win season, which is with USC. He's obviously a great offensive mind. His record overall as a head coach is 59-47. He's 2-3 in bowls with a loss to Washington, knocking him under 500 last year. So we'll have to see how he does this year with Texas. I think this is a make or break year for Steve Sarkisian. That doesn't mean I think he's going to get fired, because I don't. But is he going to be the long-term Band-Aid at Texas? If he's not, we'll find out this year, in my opinion. Next up, number 10, we have Joey McGuire. 1 year of head coaching experience at the collegiate level, multiple years of head coaching experience at the high school level. He has 8-5 overall as a head coach. Obviously, 0 9-win seasons. That makes sense. He's only been coaching for 1 year. I expect Texas Tech to at least win 9 games this year, so I think he'll get his first this year. 1-0 in bowls. Obviously beat Ole Miss last year in the bowl game. And there's really not much to say. I think this guy's a pretty good coach from what I've seen so far. I don't want to see very good yet, but a pretty good coach from what I've seen so far. He's a good recruiter. I think he's going to do a very good job in the state of Texas, especially once Texas goes to the SEC. I think he will be the best recruiting team left in Texas in the Big 12. I think they'll out-recruit TCU, honestly. So I have nothing more to say. It's kind of too early to say anything more than that, guys. He's only been coaching for 1 year at the collegiate level. Next up, we have a guy who circled back, did a nice little U-turn, came back to the Big 12 in Dana Holgerson, 88-61 overall, 3 9+ win seasons, 4-6 in bowl games. And he's been coaching for 12 years, guys. I think he's a solid coach. I don't think there's anything special about Dana Holgerson. I think you can pencil him in every year basically to get you a bowl game, because guess what? He's been coaching 12 years and he's made a bowl game 10 of them. So if you want a guy to just get you by, and at a program, honestly, like a more mid-level program or even lower, he'd probably be kept around longer. But somewhere at Houston, they're going to eventually get rid of him, guys. If he wasn't given the big contract when he left West Virginia, he would have probably been fired by now. He's really underperformed other than his first, I believe his first or second year at Houston, he was pretty good. But other than that, he's really disappointed, and he's back in the Big 12 with Houston. Next up, we have, for all you angry Sooner fans, don't get angry at me. He's right here, Brent Venables. 1 year as a head coach, 6-7 overall, 0-1 in bowl games, lost to Florida State last year. There's, again, not much to say. The defense, he's supposedly a defensive genius, and I don't disagree with that, because when he was at Clemson, very good defensive coordinator. When he was at Oklahoma, very good defensive coordinator. When he was at Oklahoma now, he's been bad. It's been 1 year, and he was bad. Can he get better? Yes. Will he? Most likely, yes, because he's proven it everywhere else that he's a good defensive coach. His issue will be, in my opinion, I think he made the wrong hire at offensive coordinator with Jeff Lebby. I didn't like that hire when it happened, which as a Texas fan, good hire. But I think he's going to have to fire Jeff Lebby. I think Jeff Lebby, it would shock me if Jeff Lebby is the offensive coordinator after year 1 of the SEC. I think he's gone after that, maybe even before. But we'll see what happens with Venables. It's hard to tell, guys. Him and Joey McGuire did well in his first year. Venables did bad. They could easily switch this year. Venables could do really well. Joey McGuire could do bad. And then it comes down to that third year. We'll see. But Brent Venables needs a turnaround year. I think Oklahoma has to win at least 8 games this year, at least. If they don't win 8 games, then he's probably not there for the long haul. And he's the number 12 coach, in my opinion, in the Big 12 this year, heading into this year. Scott Satterfield is number 13. 76-48 overall, kind of surprised me, but most of those wins are at Appalachian State. He's 4-1 in bowl games. He actually beat the team he coaches, Cincinnati now, in the bowl game last year with Louisville. He has 9+ win season, or 9+ win seasons, all of them at App State. So he's done all of his good stuff at App State. He was, in my opinion, a disappointment at Louisville. His high watermark was his first year, 8-5, and it was all downhill from there. Now he goes to Cincinnati. In my opinion, if Cincinnati did not leave and come to the Big 12, I think Louisville and Cincinnati are on par with each other. I think coming to the Big 12 will obviously help them in recruiting, and they'll probably end up being better. It's easier to recruit to than Louisville would have been. So I understand why he left. On top of that, he was underperforming, so it kind of resets his clock. So 100% understood why he moved from Louisville to Cincinnati. Last and definitely least, and predictably last, Neal Brown. He is 88-61, 4-6 in bowl games. He's 57-41, 4-1 in bowl games. He has 3 9+ win seasons, all of them at Troy. He lost his bowl game at West Virginia in 2021 to Minnesota. That was the last time they made a bowl game. He was obviously number 14. Like I said, guys, this has a lot of it's hard to predict the Big 12 record-wise for all these teams, and it's hard to rank these coaches. I fully believe Chris Klieman is the best coach in the Big 12. I fully believe Neal Brown is the worst coach in the Big 12. Now, if you want to have a debate 2 through 13, go ahead. I think there's a couple guys that can move up 1 or 2 spots. I think there's a couple guys that can move down 1 or 2 spots. I don't think there's anything I got drastically wrong on this list. If I did, drop it in the comments. But we'll run through this again real quick. Number 1, Chris Klieman. Number 2, Mike Gundy. Number 3, Lance Leipold. Number 4, Sonny Dykes. Number 5, Gus Malzahn. Number 6, Matt Campbell. Number 7, Kalani Sitake. Number 8, Dave Aranda. Number 9, my guy Steve Sarkisian. Number 10, Joey McGuire. Number 11, Dana Holgerson. Number 12, Brent Venables. Number 13, Scott Satterfield. And rounding up this list, Neal Brown at 14. If anyone has to debate any of these, go ahead. Like I said, I think 1 set in stone. I think 14 set in stone. I think everyone else could either move up 1 or 2 spots or move down 1 or 2 spots. But I think I did pretty well on this list, in my opinion. And before I get to your comments, can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. It really helps out the channel, guys. I want to grow this content. I want to have hundreds of viewers in here so I can have a really good conversation with you guys, get detailed into Texas football or college football. Sometimes we just go around college football world and talk about everything it has to offer. So please, guys, hit that like button, subscribe down below, share it out with people. Let everyone know that we're here every Tuesday leading up into the season and into the season and after every game on Saturday. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Let's see. Will, good job not being biased and having Sark high. Yeah, there's no point to have Sark high. He doesn't deserve to be high. I think the highest you could possibly have Sark on this list, honestly, is 8. If you wanted to switch him and Dave Aranda, I could see that. But it's really hard when Dave Aranda has a Big 12 title under his belt. It's just hard for me. I just don't see it. So I never said Air Force was in the Big 12. I said the Air Force beat Dave Aranda and Baylor last year in the Big 12, or in a bowl game. Sorry. Is Dave Aranda's hype losing its shine? 100%. Like I said, he's been good. A couple years, or let's see, this is 3rd year. Yeah, 3 years coaching. He was good 1 year, okay 1 year, and bad the other year. So to me, again, this is a make or break year for Dave Aranda. I don't know what's going to happen. Just based off the roster, in my opinion, if Dave Aranda wins 7 games this year, he did a great job coaching because this roster is not very good at Baylor this year. If they win 7 games in this new Big 12, I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's a great coach, but I think he's a good coach because, in my opinion, you have to judge someone based off expectations in the roster. In my opinion, if Steve Sarkisian doesn't make the Big 12 championship game, but Dave Aranda won 7 games at Baylor, Dave Aranda did a better job coaching Baylor than Steve Sarkisian did Texas. That's my opinion. That's how I draw conclusions from things. And that's why I don't have Sonny Dykes higher than 4. He had 1 good year at TCU, and he's been a mediocre coach legitimately his whole career other than that. He had 1 good year at SMU too, but again, that's the AAC. That's not a big-time conference. The Big 12, in my opinion, is the 3rd or 4th best conference in all of college football. So we'll see what happens with Sonny Dykes moving forward. Yeah, I question that as well, Will. Satterfield was not good at Louisville. He was pretty good at App State. We'll see what happens. I don't know. It's hard. Hey, the last couple guys at Cincinnati have all done pretty well. Brian Kelly did well. Obviously, Luke Fickell did well. There's someone in there I'm missing as well. I know Tommy Tuberville coached there. He did okay, didn't do great. There's someone else that in there that did well and got another job from it as well. So Cincinnati, if you're a decent coach, you can win 8 to 10 games at Cincinnati, especially with Texas and Oklahoma leaving. If Scott Satterfield, if he's a decent coach, can win 8 to 9 games, 8 to 10 games at Cincinnati. I believe that. I believe Cincinnati has a really good chance at being a top 3 to 4 team every year in the Big 12. Peninsula P. Pitt will put Neil Brown out of his misery. Hopefully, I think West Virginia fans would love that. Honestly, I don't think they would like losing to you guys, but they would love him getting fired because he's not that good, guys. He's just not, and he's coaching the offense again now, or calling plays for the offense. So I think it's going to be even worse this year for West Virginia. I know I saw Joey Foster talking about what he expected from West Virginia this year. And I believe he said 8 wins was the high mark and 6-6 was the low. There's no way in hell West Virginia wins 8 games. 0% chance of that happening. Did I see them win 6? Yes. I think that's their high marker. I think 6 is the best they could be. I think 3 to 6 is what I expect. Very difficult list to make. It was a pretty hard list to make. Like I said, 1 and 14 you put in, and then you have a debate everywhere else, in my opinion. The only one that I kind of feel bad for putting at 11 was Dana Holgerson. He could have moved up to where Steve Sarkisian is to 9, in my opinion. That's the highest I could put him. But that's the only one I could even see moving up 2 spots. I can't put Sonny Dykes at 2. Maybe you guys can. I can't personally. So I like him there at 4. I could put him at 3 if you wanted to debate Sonny Dykes and Lance Leipold. But again, it's Kansas versus Kansas State. Who has more resources? Kansas State, that's not even a friggin' TCU versus Kansas. Who has more resources? TCU. TCU's been a top 25 program, top 20 program, honestly, the past 25 years. Kansas has been one of the 10 worst programs the past, I would say bottom 15 programs the last 25 years. They had a couple good years here and there with Mangino a head coach and an Orange Bowl victory, but overall, just not a good program, not comparable. TCU is a better program. That's why I have Lance Leipold a little bit higher, because if I put them in the opposite situations, I believe Lance Leipold could do similar, if not. I think Lance Leipold consistently would do better than Sonny Dykes. I don't know if he'd ever win 13 games like Sonny Dykes did last year, but consistently, I believe he'd win 9 to 10 games a year at TCU. That's what I believe. And I don't know if Sonny Dykes will do that. We'll have to see. Okay, Shadowbearded, thank you for that. I'll try to use, if you can hear that instead. Randy Payne, thank you. Nice, kind welcome. I was expecting a little bit more from you, but thank you for that. It's going to be nice to go to the SEC next year. A little change of scenery, bigger games, in my opinion, better atmosphere. So it's definitely going to be nice. I think the Big 12 is going to be an interesting atmosphere this year for Texas, though. Obviously, last shot for a lot of these schools to ever play Texas. So it's going to be interesting. But it gets us ready for the SEC. Mark D'Antonio and Butch Jones, thank you for that, Will. I knew that it was 2 pretty good coaches at Cincinnati. They do it, like I said, it's a decent job, and the guys that get there tend to get promoted to even better jobs relatively quickly. So if Scott Satterfield does a good job, he could get promoted. I don't see it, though, because he struggled at Louisville. So we'll have to see. I mean, I'm open. I'm an optimist, so we'll have to see what he does there at Cincinnati. I honestly kind of forgot until I saw Big 12 Media Days. It was like, wow, that's who they hired, and obviously sparked my memory, and I have him ranked 13th for a reason. Christopher Foote, that is not true. Tommy Tuberville was okay at Cincinnati. Didn't do a really good job. He did okay. He wasn't Fickell. He definitely wasn't Brian Kelly. He did okay. In my opinion, he did exactly what Cincinnati should do. Like, if you're a good coach, a good solid B minus C plus coach, you should win 8 games a year there at Cincinnati. That's my opinion. Why is Satterfield a bad hire? Because the high mark he ever had at in his coaching career in the big boy part of college football and not Appalachian State, which is the Sun Belt, but in a Power 5 conference is 8-5, and you hired him. In my opinion, in a better job. I think Cincinnati right now is a better job than Louisville. And I think Cincinnati could have done a better job. I personally would have went for more of an assistant if I was Cincinnati. I wouldn't have went for another head coach, but they did. We'll have to see how he does. I could be wrong. Again, he may not have just – a lot of this guy's culture, who you get to come to your program, obviously is a big part of it. So we'll see. Maybe he does better recruiting at Cincinnati. Maybe he didn't fit well in the culture at Louisville. But it's just hard for me to believe that. We'll have to see. He obviously took the job to reset the clock, in my opinion. That's why he did it. It is a little bit better of a job, but if he had job security, like let's say he was doing well at Louisville, he wouldn't have gone to Cincinnati. He would have waited for a better job. But if he had a bad year at Louisville this year, guys, he was going to get fired. So he's like, oh, let's go to Cincinnati. That'll buy me 3 years. That's why he did it. Go Tigers. 45-38. Yeah, I know. Man, there's a lot of LSU. I get LSU fans and Ohio State fans the most. So you guys are obviously represented well on this channel. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. We're talking Big 12 football right now. Not that much Texas, honestly, tonight, guys. It's, like I said, I wanted to rank the coaches. Next week, we will get back into the schedule breakdown. I will break down Kansas and Oklahoma. And I'll also probably throw in, we'll do another top 10 of quarterbacks in the Big 12. I know Mark was talking about where he ranks the conferences quarterback-wise, and I want to dive deep into the Big 12. Obviously, the top 2 are going to be Quinn Ewers and Jalen Daniels. After that, it's going to be up for a debate. It's going to be interesting. Mike Ford, I'm curious to see if this wide receiver room lives up to the hype I'm hearing about this season. It will live up to the hype if you think Quinn Ewers will have a good season, because it's hard for me to believe that you have Isaiah Nair, you have Jordan Whittington, you have Xavier Worthy, you have A.D. Mitchell. You have so many guys at this position on top of Jatavian Sanders at the tight end position with a top 5 offensive line returning in college football. It's really going to be about the progression of Quinn Ewers. If Quinn Ewers turns into a top 5 Heisman guy, which in my opinion, if Texas is to go and win the Big 12 championship, Quinn Ewers will be in New York for the Heisman, or be a top 5 vote getter, I should say. I don't know if they usually invite 4 guys. So if he's a top 5 guy, he's a top 5 in voting. I think Texas wins the Big 12 championship. I don't think there's really any way they don't, in my opinion. On top of that, I think our running backs will be pretty good this year as well. Not as good as Bijan or Roschon, but pretty good. Yeah, Christopher. I mean, that's solid. 9, 9, 7's okay, and 4 and 8's not good. In my opinion, I'm going to say a good coach at Cincinnati wins 8 to 9 games a year. If you consistently win 8 to 9 games a year, you're a good, solid C plus B minus coach. If you're a great coach, you do what Fickle and Brian Kelly did, which is elevate them to new levels they have never seen before. And he didn't do that. So he's not a great coach. Is he a solid coach? 100%. 100% Shadow Beard. Worthy, Mitchell, Nair, Whittington, Cook, more crazy hype for sure. Yeah, I didn't even mention Jonte Cook because he's one of the best receiving prospects in the country coming in. DeAndre Moore is a speedster. So they have so much talent at the wide receiver position. It's the second best wide receiver room in the country, in my opinion. Tim Prangley, if he was in here, might argue that USC would be that, but I think Texas is the second best wide receiver room in the country. And I think that Ohio State is number 1, obviously. I think everyone believes that. If you're talking Big 12 coaches, better hit Leipold before a blue blood program throws a bag at him. Better hit – I meant Leipold. What do you mean by that? Because I did talk about him. I considered him the 3rd best coach in the Big 12. My top 3 were Chris Klieman, Mike Gundy, and Lance Leipold. Those are my top 3. Again, I think it's up for debate. between Gundy, Leipold, and Dykes for 2, 3, and 4. But those are my 2, 3, 4. Obviously, the Gus Malzahn is the highest newcomer at 5, and then Sitake at 7. And then you have to go all the way down to 11 to find another one in Dana Holgerson. And the worst coach out of the newcomers is Cincinnati coach Scott Satterfield. I believe in 23, Texas wide receiver room better than Michigan's wide receiver. Oh, 100%. No doubt about that. That's not really a debate, in my opinion. Like I said, I think there's only a couple rooms in the country that can compete with Texas, and that's Ohio State, USC, and Texas are the top 3. Ohio State's number 1. That's not a debate. They're number 1. If you want to debate 2, it would be between USC and Texas. What do you mean Texas is Texas? Okay, I don't know what that means. My Ford 100%. Yeah, it will be interesting if he does take a higher paying job because I think he had a chance to leave last year. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but and that stock can dive quickly, guys. I mean, Matt Campbell, people were talking about as the head coach for the New York Jets at one point. They were talking about him as the head coach for the New York Jets or Wisconsin or Ohio State or any of those head coaching jobs for a long time. And I don't think he's ever going to get another big-time coaching job. I really don't. I don't think – or offer, I should say. I don't think he's going to get another offer. I think he's done getting those unless a team is really desperate and he's like their 6th option. So – that could happen to Lance Leipold. If he doesn't perform at Kansas this year and doesn't perform going forward, then he could just be at Kansas for a really long time. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think, in my opinion, if he wins 6 to 8 games a year at Kansas, he'll have a lifetime contract. That's what I believe. He could be there for the next 30 years if he wanted to be. He could be the next Bill Snyder at Kansas. Like Bill Snyder was at Kansas State. I'm not saying Bill Snyder was the head coach at Kansas. But he 100% could. And this is just, I don't know why you keep saying this. That's just not true. They went 6-7 last year. They have the Big 12 preseason quarterback, Jalen Daniels. They're going to win 7 games this year. That's my opinion, but I think they're going to win 7 games. Texas is recruiting pretty well. We're recruiting like we always do. We always recruit within the top 7. The difference is we're getting offensive linemen and defensive linemen. We didn't used to get that. We used to fill up on, I would say, kind of like if you have a bad diet. You would get enough food, but you'd be filling up on candy and chips and stuff like that. That's what Texas was with wide receivers, running backs, stuff like that. Stuff that you didn't get the meat and potatoes you needed in the trenches, and we're finally doing that. Sandra Green, hook them. Kansas is terrible. Okay, I'm just going to stop playing that up. They're not terrible. With the improved O-line, I think Brooks gets 1,000+ yards. I 100% agree with that. I think Jonathan Brooks is getting slept on. I think he has a chance to put up better career numbers than Bijan Robinson only because of the offensive line he plays behind. And Bijan got to play behind the offensive line that he got to this year, which will be by far the best offensive line we've had in a decade. And the offensive lines going forward, I 100% believe Bijan would have put up even nastier numbers and probably would have won a Heisman Trophy. Matt Campbell did well. I never said he didn't do well. I said that. I have him ranked as the 6th best head coach in the Big 12. So I think he did do well at Ohio State. What I'm saying is he will never get another big-time head coaching offer again because he stayed too long and didn't do as well as people thought he did. He's doing well for Iowa State standards, but he's not doing well overall, in my opinion. He's winning basically 7 games a year. That's not enough to get you a big-time head coaching job. It just isn't. Biggest Big 12 litmus test this year is probably when Oregon goes to Lubbock. That will be a good game, an interesting game. It will be big for Joe McGuire because you got to have someone like Micah Hudson, who is either the 1st or 2nd best wide receiver recruit coming out of high school next year, and he's considering Texas Tech. It's basically down to Texas Tech, and it seems like he's leaning heavily to Texas Tech. So if Texas Tech goes 9-3 this year and does one of the Big 12, there's a really good chance Micah Hudson stays in Texas and goes to Texas Tech instead of Texas, and that'd be very interesting. Not Texas at Bama. Shadow Bearded says that. Mike Fort. No, because I can't see UT winning in Tuscaloosa. That game is so hard for me to predict because, again, if you just close your eyes not close your eyes, but if you take off the uniforms of the teams playing and you look at the players, I think Texas has better players. But then you look at the sideline, and obviously Alabama has a better coach, and it's in Tuscaloosa. So it's going to be a very interesting game. To me, it's going to come down to whether Jalen Milroe, because I think he's going to be the starter at least early on, can Jalen Milroe beat us consistently in the passing game? If he can do that, I think Alabama wins. If he can't, then I think Texas wins. Exactly. Matt Campbell, that's the definition of average right there. He's been, at Iowa State 8 years now. So he's a good coach. I'm not saying that. He's just not a great coach. I think Texas has the advantage at QB, but that's honestly about it. Maybe wide receiver disagree with that. I think we have the advantage at QB. I think we 100% have the advantage at wide receiver because, again, if we have the advantage at QB and the wide receiver room is close, then you have to go with the team that has the better quarterback. I think we have just as good of an offensive line as they do, and I think there's a chance we have a better. I think in my opinion, we do. We have a better cornerback room. The rest is up for debate. It's a coin toss everywhere else, in my opinion. 32-31 in the big conference again. So you're describing a average coach, and an average coach at Iowa State is good. He's not a great coach. Sark hasn't performed well enough on the road for me to think Texas would be Bama in their house 100%. That's the main reason is the coach. If you switch coaches, I think Texas rolls Alabama. I think everyone would predict that. If right now Nick Saban went and coached Texas and Steve Sarkisian coached Alabama, Texas would beat Alabama by 2 touchdowns. And until Steve Sarkisian can prove to me that he can beat other elite coaches, then I'm going to go with the other team's coach. And it's in Tuscaloosa. That's the hard part. If it was in Austin, I think we beat him. I really do. But it's going to be hard. A night game at Tuscaloosa with the greatest of all time standing on one sideline, it's going to be hard, guys. But again, it doesn't affect our season. If we lose this game but win out the Big 12 or even lose one game in the Big 12, we're going to be in the Big 12 championship. So we know what we have to do, and we need to do it. It's that simple, especially with the talent we have. There's no more excuses. Sandra Green. Tech is number 1 in their warped minds, Ducks by 3 touchdowns. I think that'll be an interesting game. Oregon's probably not as good as they were last year. I think Tech is better than they were last year. It's in Lubbock. It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a big game for Texas Tech, I'll tell you that. Because if they win that game and they can be a 9-3 team in the Big 12, they have a chance to recruit really well going into next season and kind of, take this league by the reins, kind of take it over, honestly. So we'll have to see. I don't think that will happen, but we'll have to see. Senior sack forever. That's pretty funny. Sark might be the best you've had for a while, but I thought that both Strong and Herman were awful hires. Strong was definitely like the 6th choice, and we kind of just went with him. Herman, I didn't love the hire, but then I got talked into it by the media because the media absolutely loved that hire. Sark, I didn't really love at the time. I wanted them to go after Brian Kelly because I really believe he would leave Notre Dame, guys. And you see that him going to LSU. I thought, just like he thought apparently, that Notre Dame has kind of hit its ceiling and that they can't really win a national championship anymore with the standards that they have academically, and he left and went to LSU. So I think Texas had a chance to get him, maybe. I don't know. I would have definitely reached out and tried to get him. That was my number 1 guy. Sark was definitely in the top 3 to 4, but he's a great offensive coordinator. You can't dispute that, but his head coaching record, it's a little bit to be, or there's not much substance there, and we'll have to see what happens with him here at Texas. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting. Again, he's not going to get fired unless this team is perfectly healthy and we go 6-6. He's not going to get fired. Now, if he goes like 7-5, 8-4, I think 8-4 is our low mark. If he goes 8-4, then this guy is not going to be the coach that leads Texas to a future SEC championship, let alone a big national championship. So I think he does. So I think he would get fired eventually, but he wouldn't get fired till Arch Manning left. That's my opinion. We'll have to see what happens. Shadow Bearded, I hope this D-line takes it personally that they were ranked so high in pressures and so low in sacks. Third year of Kwiatkowski, I hope to see a ton of line movement and confusion. 100%, you're going to have to start to finish some of these guys. You can't lead the Big 12 in pressures and not be in the top 2 or 3 in sacks. They weren't even that. So it's up to Barron Terrell, Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, Justice Finkley, all those guys up front. Those are probably the starters I just named, on top of the depth behind them, to finally finish when they get to the quarterback, because that will lead to turnovers. It will lead to stopping people on third down, giving it back to what I believe is going to be a dynamic offense. On top of, I think our safeties and our cornerbacks are really good. And I think if you get in guys' faces and create pressures like you did last year, you can create more turnovers. And then if your secondary does need bailed out once in a while, finish him off and get a sack. Like, can we do that this year? We'll have to see. I would have, if I could bring back one player from the teams of the past, the last 3 years, I'd bring back Joseph Osai. If we could put Joseph Osai on this defense, I would have loved to seen it, because we don't really need help that much on offense, in my opinion, if any. But defense, we definitely need someone that can get to the quarterback consistently. If someone can get 8 to 10 sacks this year, if we can get 2 guys with 7+, that'd be a huge, huge, huge thing, guys. And it would help us so much. I'm praying we get someone like that. I think Barron Terrell will get 7+ sacks. I don't know where the other ones are going to come from. They may have to come by the committee and just have like 3 to 4 from a bunch of different guys. Eight and 4 in this conference would be abysmal. TCU is done without Max. K-State can't maintain, and Oklahoma as well. Oklahoma, I 100% agree. It is abysmal, but that is the lowest I could see in the Big 12 this year for us. The high, like I said, the highest is 11 and 1. Realistically, I think we're 10 and 2. That's going to probably be my prediction going into the year. So yeah, 8 and 4 would be abysmal. That would tell us everything we need to know about Steve Sarkisian. But like I said, I don't think he gets fired until Arch either goes to the NFL or transfers anyway, so it doesn't matter. Max had a pretty great season last year, but he wasn't the starter. Sonny with the QB is always something to watch out for, in my opinion. I 100% agree. I think TCU is going to be good on offense. They're probably not going to be as good as last year, and they'll probably be the same on defense, maybe a little bit better. When I get to them, when they play us, and I break that down, I'll have to see about their roster. But the thing is, guys, they won so many close games last year. And when you win close games, a lot of those are going to turn into losses the next year because you can't consistently do it. I kind of brought up an NFL comparison when I was talking to Mark about this, because there aren't many teams in college football that make the college football playoff or are good teams that win 10 to 11 games a year, basically, that play that many close games. I use the NFL as an example because there's every game in the NFL, for the most part, 95% of them are close games. And teams that win, like, let's say they have 10 considered close games in the NFL, 10 to 11, and they go 9 and 2 one year in close games, they're not going to go 9 and 2 again the next year. There's only one team that has done that in my lifetime, and that's the Patriots. They consistently won close games. Everyone else has a regression to the mean. Now, do I think TCU will just go from winning every close game to losing? No. But if they lose half of the games, which I believe they had 8 or 9 close games, if they lose 4 of those, they're 8 and 4, and then they lose another one just because of a blowout, they're 7 and 5. And I fully expect TCU to be a 7 and 5, 8 and 4 team this year. I could see 6 and 6 as the lowest, so it's going to be interesting. Win 100%. Brian Orakpo was he was fabulous. In my opinion, he wasn't the most fun edge rusher to watch, though. Sergio Kindle was. Sergio Kindle obviously got hurt on a motorcycle accident. Never developed as the guy I thought he was going to be at the NFL level. He was fantastic at Texas, absolutely fantastic. He's one of the top 5 or 6 recruits in the history of Texas football. So he's a fantastic player. It sucks what happened to him. He was so fun to watch at Texas. And Brian Orakpo was fun as hell to watch too. But those two together were really fun. It'd be nice if we could have a pair like that again. I think K-State will maintain. I agree. I think Kansas State, right now, if I had to just predict the Big 12 championship game, it's going to be either Texas versus Kansas State or Texas versus Texas Tech, in my opinion. The dark horse in this conference to me is UCF. I think UCF could have a really good year. We'll have to see, though. Oklahoma, too. Like, there's, in my opinion, there's a couple teams you can cross off of not making the Big 12 championship game. I'm not putting Cincinnati in. I'm not putting West Virginia in. Oklahoma, possibly. Houston, no. Texas Tech, possibly. Texas, for sure. I think Texas you can ride in. I really believe that. Baylor, no. BYU, no. Iowa State, no. UCF, possibly. TCU, possibly. Kansas, possibly. Oklahoma State, possibly. And then Kansas State, possibly. There's like 7, 8 teams in this conference that can compete and make the Big 12 championship game. So it'll be interesting. Matthew Farmer, I think TCU doesn't get much respect. They will probably end up better than most people think. Yeah, it's just 13-2 with a lot of close wins. And Sonny Dykes is your head coach. Who, I don't know. I just feel like 7-5, 7-5, 8-4. That's what I predict from TCU. They lost a lot more than one player. They lost Quentin Johnston. They lost Max Duggan. They lost a couple offensive linemen, a couple guys on defense. They're not as – they were more than one player, but a lot of their good players are gone. Oh, 100%. TCU does well versus Texas, and I think a lot of that had to do with Gary Patterson. So we'll have to see. Obviously, last year's game was 10-7. Our offense was god-awful in that game. It will be in Fort Worth this year, so it'll be an interesting game. We'll have to see. TCU will be 8-4 team. Most likely, I agree with that. I think TCU is an 8-4 football team. I don't think they're obviously going to go 13. I think a great year for TCU this year is 10 wins. If TCU wins 10 wins, they had a great year. That'd be very impressive to me coming off. Like I said, Sonny Dykes only has 2 10-win seasons. One of them was last year. So if he has another one, he's proven me wrong. And he will be the second most coach in this conference if TCU somehow wins 10 games. If they win 8, that's what I expect them to do. Anything less than 8 is a disappointment, in my opinion, so I have to see. Oh, TCU's beating Colorado. Colorado's not going to be very good. Colorado will win 3 to 4 games. Max Duggan was special. That guy was a gamer. He had an X factor to him. He'll probably stick around in the NFL as a practice squad player. That's about it. That's all I really see it from him. But he was a gamer and he was special in that aspect. Whenever you had him in, he would make plays. He would keep you in the game. But there's nothing really spectacular about him skill-wise. That's how I look at Max Duggan. Last 10 years was easy mode. I can see Big 12 having 5 9+ win teams. Texas, OU, K-State, Kansas, T-Tech. I agree with that. I think all those teams can win 9+ games. I think Kansas is really getting slept on. I think they were like 9th in the Big 12 predictions for preseason. I think that's a friggin' joke. How can they be 9th when you're voting their quarterback is the best player or best offense or best quarterback in the conference? I think that's a joke. That's stupid to me. If you have the best quarterback in the conference, can anyone name me the last time where the best quarterback in the conference finished 9th in their division or in their conference? I don't think it's ever happened. I've never seen it. We'll have to see. But let's see, Christopher, was Texas Christian just lucky? I mean, there was a lot of luck going into that. I don't think they're lucky. I think to be able to put yourself in positions to be lucky to win a football game, you have to do a lot of things right. So if they're doing 95 out of 100 things right, and then they got lucky for a couple things to break their way and cause wins, that's on them. They put themselves in the position to do that. So I don't think they're lucky. It's just hard for me to believe in Sonny Dykes when he was average before this. I think last season was a special season. I don't think it was a lucky season. We'll have to see what happens, though. Maybe Seneca Wallace. That's a good call, possibly. I don't know. I'd have to look that one up, but there's not many guys. I mean, usually when you have the best quarterback in your conference, you're finishing in the top 4 to 5, period. I'm trying to think the last time there was like a great quarterback that was basically, you're telling me they're going to be one of the 4 to 5 worst teams in their conference. That'd be like what in the SEC, trying to think who I think will be the 4th or 5th worst team in SEC. Honestly, I think Texas A&M will probably be one of the 4 or 5 worst teams in the SEC. So if Connor Wegman somehow turns out to be the best quarterback in the conference, which won't happen, do you see that happening? I don't. So if you did, do you think Texas A&M would be one of the 4 or 5 worst teams? No, they wouldn't. I agree. 9 to 10 wins would be excellent. I think 8 and 4 is probably what's going to happen. I think anything less than 8 isn't a good season. I think 6 and 6 would be terrible and basically would show you that last year was 100% lucky. Christopher Foote, you would be dead wrong. They are not the best team in the Big 12. They're not. They won't even finish inside the top 4 this year. They're not. It's going to be Texas, probably Kansas State, Tech, and Oklahoma. They're not. And I would put Kansas ahead of them too. I think 5. I think TCU finishes somewhere between 6 and 8 in the conference. That's my opinion. I had the Big 12 as the worst P5 last year behind ACC, so it'll be interesting how they do. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I could dive deeper into that and see if I agree with that. I think, in my opinion, I think the ACC was the worst, but we'll see. But I haven't asked you guys to do that in a minute, so I'm going to ask you to do it right now. Can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. Next week, I'm going to break down Texas versus Kansas, Texas versus Oklahoma, and the top 14 quarterbacks in the Big 12 this year. Obviously, the 4 new additions. And again, we're here every Tuesday. We're going to be here every Tuesday leading into the season, breaking down stuff like this, like top 14 coaches in the Big 12, how I ranked them. And then when we go into the season, every Tuesday I'll be breaking down their opponent, the game, and also who wins, obviously. And then I will be back Saturday, win or loss, after post-game right here on Mark Rogers TV. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Please, please, please go over to the Texas channel, like it over there, and subscribe down below over there as well. It really helps out grow that channel, which we're trying to grow, guys. Please, please, please do that. Thank you guys for being here tonight. I think I'm going to call it. You guys have been fantastic, as usual, keeping this conversation going. And he said, I don't understand. Okay, we'll answer this real quick. I don't understand what you are using to evaluate the coaches. So I am using past performance, if they were in this conference or out of this conference, no matter what, their past head coaching performances, wherever they coached at, their recruiting, what they've done lately matters more than what they did a long time ago, obviously. And then and then at the end, gut feeling, like, what do I think they're going to do going forward? That's how I rank the coaches. I mean, if you're not using your eyes somewhat with this, guys, you're just wrong. You can't just use statistics, because if you just use statistics, then I would have had to put Sonny Dykes as the second best coach in the Big 12. I just don't believe that, because he hasn't really proven that anywhere else. And that's also why I didn't use just Big 12, because honestly, you'd probably have to put him at 1 after 1 year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Steve Sarkisian at 1. I never had him at 1. I have him at 9. And now we have a debate between the Big 12 and the Big 10. I agree. 1 game alone, Mike Ford says, standalone means nothing. I do agree with that. Where was Matt Campbell? Christopher Foote. I have Matt Campbell at 6. I have Gus Malzahn, Sonny Dykes, Lance Leipold, Mike Gundy, and Chris Klieman ahead of him. Chris Klieman is number 1 in the Big 10. If anyone has, that's the thing too, does anyone disagree with my top, let's say 5? Malzahn, 5, Dykes, 4, 3, Leipold, 2, Gundy, 1, Klieman. And then why do you disagree? We'll go there for a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up. But those are my top 5. Honestly, I'm confident with that top 5. I think you can put him. I think Gus Malzahn is 1, Klieman is 1, or Gus Malzahn is 5, Klieman is 1, and then you can debate Dykes, Leipold, and Gundy. But I'm not putting Matt Campbell in the top 5. I'm not putting Kalani Sitake in the top 5. Definitely not putting Dave Aranda, Steve Sarkisian at 9. So, and I thought it was fair. I thought Steve Sarkisian at 9 is fair. I don't think he should be higher or lower. I like Satterfield at Cincinnati. No, he's not. He's at 13. So I could be wrong, but we'll see about that. That's going to do it, guys. Thank you for being here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. Hook 'em, guys. I will be here next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Jeez. You guys better be as well. Thank you, guys.